that myth, that we dispel that. I don't want you thinking that if you start a black-owned business, that you are a sellout if you do business with white people. Why would you pass up on the opportunity to do business with the people who have more money than any other human beings on the planet? Part of selling a product means finding customers that have money in their pocket so they can support your business. There's nothing wrong with you doing business with white people, just like there's nothing wrong with white people doing business with you. What is a problem is when the economic relationship is exploitative. When the economic relationship is exploitative, that is similar to what we have now. It's whenever they build a company, they become the employer, you become the employee. They become the boss, and you are the worker. Or they are the producer, you are the consumer. That is where the relationship is problematic and exploitative. It becomes like an abusive marriage. But when you're talking about switching roles, where sometimes you get on top, sometimes you get to be the employer and they're the employee. Well, that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Or situations where you become the producer and they're the consumer. That's fine. I'm not going to call you a sellout because you do business with white people. And I want people to understand that, because some people think that when I talk about black owned business, that means just kind of black everything all the time. And that's just not true. Even the Black Business School doesn't discriminate. I tell white people all the time, look, if you want to come in here and learn about black wealth, just know, I mean, we're going to be talking about things from a black perspective, but we're pretty smart over here. We're the best in the world at what we do. And we'd be very happy to train you, just like you train our kids when they go to Harvard and Yale and Stanford. So do not think that that being a black owned business means that you can only rock with black customers and only be in black neighborhoods, only do stuff around black people. That's not it. That there's no reason for that. But remember, there's a difference between doing business in a space because you want to versus doing the business in a space because you have to. Give me a yes in the chat if you understand that. If you hear what I'm saying at that point, sunk in. Okay. So Dr. Anderson says alternative economies have always existed. In earlier times, most of the alternative economies were the cottage industries that sprung up around the manufacturing of certain products by specific identifiable groups. German dairies and Irish distilleries spawned economies that revolved around them. Today, we have many specialized industries such as military installations, university campuses, or any number of Chinatowns that function as independent alternative economies. They run parallel to the mainstream economy and provide jobs, products, and services for an identifiable group of people. So they have their niche, they have their people that they serve, and they're not apologizing for none of that. I've never heard a Chinese man apologize for the existence of Chinatown. So don't you dare ever apologize for the existence of Blacktown or whatever you decide to call your space, Black Wall Street, or whatever you want to call it, where you're doing the businesses or creating businesses that you own and control. Let's see, they run parallel to the mainstream economy and provide jobs, products, and services for an identifiable group of people. The issue should no longer be whether Black America should have an alternative economy or business communities, but rather what type. Like all other alternative economies or business communities, Black America needs traditional business communities built upon its group competitive advantages for the specific purposes of building jobs, products, and services that satisfy Black consumers' basic needs and desires. So all they're basically saying is this. Dr. Anderson is saying this in Powernomics, that you need to develop the ability to serve your own people. And you have to create a whole generation, a whole class of Black entrepreneurs who are going to be thinking about serving Black customers. If you serve, then you don't have to sell anything. If you're providing a needed service, you don't have to sell anything. There are people ready to spend your money. I've been to conferences this week. I went to a conference. I spoke this week at a conference in Arizona called Women Doing It Big. And thousands of dollars in commerce occurred at that conference. There were tons of connections that people made with each other. And a lot of business was being done amongst Black people. And as a result of people serving each other's needs, helping each other level up, helping each other get access to things. The All Black National Convention, the vendors make a ton of money because there are Black people there ready to get their needs served by Black-owned businesses. So really now the revolution is already underway. Now the majority of the Black community understands at least a large percentage, understand the importance of buying Black. Now that you know what to do, it's a matter of now forming a habit and a culture around doing that, right? Making it into a habit, also making it very easy for people to support Black-owned businesses. So if you have a business, You want to think carefully about how easy is it for people to get my product? How simple do I make it for them to come and support me when they want to? Because now you've got ready, willing customers who are looking for Black-owned businesses. And so when you're raising your kids, in addition to talking to your children about, what you want to major in college, or what kind of job you want, what kind of career you want, talk to them also about figuring out what sort of service you want to provide for the community. I think a great question to ask your child every morning. I ask my son this question every morning, maybe not every morning, maybe once a week or once a month. And I ask him, I say, we wake up in the morning, we have a meeting every morning at 10. And I say, okay, so tell me, what is your plan today to build your future and to serve your family, right? And to serve your family. And because it starts with the family. When you serve the family, you're serving the community indirectly. And that's the conversation we have, because I want to build that intentionality with him to say every day, as a Black man, that's what you got to be thinking about. How are you going to make the lives of the people around you better, right? Instead of all the scenarios where we see where people make each other's lives worse. We don't want that. All right, so let's keep going. The issue should no longer, okay, we already talked about that. In the best possible world, we should seek to reconstruct traditional business communities where business persons took pride in the products they sold. Business owners knew their customers were their neighbors and offered the best products and services. In return, merchants expected customers to remain loyal and shop in stores within their own community. So the relationship between the Black consumer and the Black producer is like a loving relation. It's like dating. It's like the relationship between a man and a woman. And what happens between a man and a woman is the woman says, hey, I got what you need. The man says, hey, girl, I got what you need. And then they get closer, and then a connection is formed, right? Because they're doing a trade, right? You give me what I need, I'm gonna give you what you need. It might be physical, it might be emotional, it might be intellectual, it might be spiritual, it might be occupational or economic or whatever, but we're fulfilling each other's needs. And then the ability to fulfill those needs requires trust and accountability. Trust and accountability. Trust and accountability. Trust means that I trust that you're going to fulfill my needs. I have to trust you. I got to put myself out there. I got to go and keep shopping at Black-owned businesses, even though I know that there's a chance that this Black business owner might rob me. Right? There's scammers in the Black community. There are people in the Black community that do terrible things, right? So I got to have that trust to say, I love you enough, and and this relationship means enough to me that I'm going to trust you. I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to try to make it work. And if it don't work with you, I'm going to try with somebody else. And then accountability means that the world, the community, has the right to hold me accountable to follow through on the expectation that's been thrust upon me, right? So you giving me your trust. Well, then now I'm accountable. Now I'm accountable. Y'all trust me. Y'all trust the Black Business School. That's why you're here. You trust when you hear the name Boyce Watkins. You trust that name, and that makes me accountable. That means, well, okay, but I better be on my A game in order to adequately serve the people who trust me. So every day I'm thinking, okay, boys, we got to come through. What we got? What we gonna get? What we gonna do to make people's lives better? Right? Because I'm coming through. You gonna pass me the ball? Oh, I'm dunking that sucker every time. Right? That's the mindset that I try to have every single day. It's not like, oh, well, y'all trust me, but y'all some suckers, man. Shoot, please, whatever. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm the man. Nobody. I don't got to do nothing for nobody, right? That's that celebrity mindset that I find absolutely appalling. It bothers me when we love our celebrities and give them all this trust and all this support, but for some reason we don't have any desire to hold them accountable. There's no effort to say, you're doing all this stuff for white people. You're doing all this stuff for Jewish people. You're making Asian people real happy. You're doing all this monkey dancing on stage and calling women out of their name and acting a damn fool, embarrassing your whole community. We're even letting you get away with a lot of that. But the least you can do is come back in here and take some of that money and spend as much money helping us build this school as you spent at the Louis Vuitton store, right? And there's no accountability. There's the celebrities like, well, I ain't accountable. I don't know nothing to nobody because I'm an artist. I can do whatever I want. I'm free to do what I want. I get that. But I would also say that if they're free to do what they want, then you're free to do what you want, which is to not support them. And I think that it's very important to understand, to have the self-esteem to understand how important our support and validation is for these individuals. They can't really exist. A lot of them can't have a career without us. So ultimately, what I would say to you is, is understand both sides of that fence, and just know, if you ever want to understand economics a little better, you just know you already understand everything you need to know. Just think about how you feel in a relationship. Think about how you feel in an abusive relationship. Think about how you feel in an exploitative relationship where you're getting used, right? Think about then think about how you feel in a loving relationship. Think about how you feel in a relationship where you have the best sex in the world. Think about how you feel in a relationship where there's companionship and mutual support and extreme loyalty, right? Think about those things, right? Because that's kind of how economics works the same way. The relationship between the producer and the consumer is very similar to the relationship between a man and a woman in a relationship, or two women or two men. I'm not judging any of that. I don't care what your sexuality is. If you're not in that, if you're not in the traditional family category, just know we do not discriminate, and I'm never gonna say anything about your sexual preference, right? We're black first, okay? Let's make that clear, okay? So let's keep reading. In the best possible world, we should seek to reconstruct traditional business communities where business persons took pride in the products they sold. Business owners knew their consumers, who were their neighbors, and offered the best products and services. In return, merchants expected customers to remain loyal and shop in stores within their own community. Over the last two generations, ever since white folks arrived, the commercial mall phenomenon drained off much of the business from local community businesses. But new ethnic and high income customers were bringing traditional businesses back, or business communities back. The desire for the old tradition of high quality, fresh products fuels today's explosion of boutique shops and organic and natural food stores that are springing up all over the country. That is true. I think that the fact that there are so many people who are learning in this generation that health is wealth creates so many opportunities. There's so many businesses I've seen being created around, like that. I met this nice lady named Reese. She has a company called Juiced Up Reese, and Reese set up this big gigantic blow up booth at the All Black National Convention. She sells these fresh juices that are so good, and they bought every single one of her juices, right? And the thing is that this business changed her life. She's now making a lot of money, and her kids are doing extremely well, and her husband and everything. And I was super happy about that, because as we sort of looking at things like health consciousness in the Black community, what this does is creating a whole booming industry of holistic health providers that are able to step in and give you something other than what the pharmaceutical industry gives you. So Dr. Christina Parks, for example, or some other people that are out there. Dr. Sebi did it when he was alive. It's really cool to kind of see this sort of develop, and you want to sort of pay attention to that, because again, culture is driving the economics. Because your culture is now pro-health, you now look at McDonald's a little bit different. You look at White Castle a little different than you did when you were a kid. You even drinking Kool-Aid is looked at differently than it is now. And that's leading like this massive multi-million, maybe multi-billion-dollar economic revolution, where there are providers that are helping to fulfill that. And I think it's awesome. Queen Afua can testify to that. She was at the All Black National Convention 2 years ago. Okay, so over the last two generations, the commercial, okay, we already talked about that. Let's see here. Using our concept of vertical integration and thinking outside the box, Black business communities can be built in a vertical chain of obligation. We have a vertical chain of obligation when a series of obligations exist between various Black businesses and Black customers, when businesses and customers support each other. Application of this vertical concept could build business communities based upon new community understandings, interests, respect, and market loyalty similar to those that exist in most ethnic communities. So vertical chain of obligation, very interesting. Remember I told you trust and accountability, right? How does a vertical chain of obligation work in the real world? Well, it establishes the ability to exploit niche markets. An incident between Asian merchants and Black suppliers in Chinatown in Washington, D.C. demonstrates the importance of vertical chain of obligation as a foundation to an alternative economy. A Black marketing organization approached a group of Asian merchants in an effort to sell them a variety of popular consumer items. After the Black distributors made their sales pitch, they were disappointed when the Asian merchants replied that they were not interested in purchasing products that the Black distributors were selling. Determined not to give up on the Asian merchants and convinced that contiguous boundaries between the Asian and Black communities made them quasi-members of the same community, the Black distributors offered a 25% discount from the price that the Asian merchants were paying for the same items. Pay attention now. Are y'all listening? Give me a yes. Before I read, I want to make sure. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? And how many of you can guess where this paragraph is going? Give me a yes in chat if you can guess where this paragraph is going and what the point of this paragraph is going to be. Let's be very intentional here. Let's think this through. So again, the Asians told the black distributors that they were not interested, even with the 25% discount. Now, pay attention now. They can get their product cheaper from the black distributor. They said, no, thank you. They said, no, we'd rather pay more. Why? Well, in a collective voice of puzzlement, the black distributors asked how the merchants could afford to turn down a 25% discount. The merchants responded, you black people just don't understand. It is not the money, but the fact that we only buy from our own. Only you blacks will buy from any and every one. The Asian merchants have made their point. They take pride in and respect the traditional vertical chain of obligation that exists between Asian business people. So this is what in that book I wrote, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. In that book, this is part of the code of conduct that I've laid out for you. You got to understand, and it's not illogical. It's not crazy. It's not stupid. See, because you hear black folks say all the time, "Well, I'm gonna go buy and get it from the cheapest place I can go because I ain't got extra money to spend on that, right? Or I'm gonna go where I can get the best, blah 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 blah, right?" And I get that. That makes perfect sense. But really, you're the only ones who are really trained to think that way. Nobody else really thinks that way. Because and why is that? Well, it's because it's not necessarily logical that you're getting the product from the cheapest source. That's not completely logical. What you're missing is you're missing all the other forms of wealth. One of the things I've talked to you guys about consistently is that wealth typically shows itself in the form of money. It rarely shows itself in the form of money. Money is not the majority of ways that wealth shows itself. If all you're doing is looking at money and the bottom line, you're going to miss most of the wealth that's in the building. When I see a group of black people getting together and doing business with each other and making connections, I see wealth growing right in front of me. I see wealth, like almost like somebody who sees ghosts in the room. I see wealth growing because wealth is so much deeper than just, did I save $10 on that transaction? Or did I make $50 just now? So ultimately, when I am making a purchase decision, first thing I want you to understand, forget about the money part. The money is secondary. The money part doesn't really matter in the wealth conversation as much. So when I'm making a purchase decision, number one, when I buy from you, I'm giving you something. I'm giving you my power. The black dollar is very, very powerful. So I'm handing my power over to you. Now, if you are a natural adversary, if you are a competitor, if you're somebody that may not have my best interest at heart, and I'm giving you my power, then I should understand why I end up powerless or why they end up having more power than me, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is that if I'm intentional and thoughtful, I'm going to give my power to someone who is going to reciprocate that, who's likely going to reciprocate that by taking that power and doing something with it that's going to be beneficial to me or the people that I care about. So when I buy from a black person and give them my power, I'm transmitting my economic power to them. And I know that this person's also going to probably buy black or at least take care of a black family. Then I've won. I've poured into my community. I've done something to make the black community more powerful because I transferred my power and my energy in a positive way. And the other thing too is if I'm buying from a cousin or buying from a loved one or even my homeboy or whatever, that transaction means far more than whether or not I saved 50 cents on a pair of socks. Right? The economic value, the fact that he's going to take that dollar and it's going to multiply 2 or 3 times because he's going to buy something from his sister, who's going to buy something from their cousin, who's going to buy something from Aunt Lucy or whatever. That means that dollar is bouncing around the community and I'm adding wealth. My $1 has become $4 or $5. So that's a hell of an ROI. I'm getting a 500% return on my money when I spend in a black-owned space. Like when I go to the all-black national convention and I buy from somebody who's also buying black, I'm passing along something like a virus, except it's a good virus. I'm passing on the not even called it a virus. I'm passing on economic contagion in a positive way with somebody else who's also going to be a transmitter of that same contagion. I'm buying from a black producer who's gonna go become a consumer for another black producer who's gonna become a consumer for another black producer because we're all playing the same game. We are all operating on code. That makes our money stronger. That makes our money multiply. That makes the whole community better. That's just no different from football or basketball. When I'm in a football game and I'm the quarterback and I throw the ball down the field, I got to be intentional on who I'm throwing the ball to. Let me tell y'all a stupid story that still pisses me off from college. This is a true story. I'm not making this up. When I was in college, there was this girl on the football team. So let me back up. I had this terrible girlfriend in college that just really, she was like the meanest lady ever. And she was on a flag football team, right? And so on this flag football team, they were just terrible. They were so bad, it was ridiculous. And they went out and they played their games. They would lose like 45-0, whatever. And I didn't care much about. I wasn't thinking much about it. My girlfriend was on the team, and I was like, "How'd y'all do?" And she's like, "We were terrible. They scored 5 times in the first 10 minutes." Well, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty bad." So what happened was their coach eventually quit because their coach didn't even want to do it anyway. So he quit, and I'm a sports fan, and I'm a strategist, and I know a little bit about football. So she said, "Hey, would you mind coaching us?" And I said, "Okay, great, sure." So I looked at the team, and I did what Coach Pine's probably doing out at Colorado. I wouldn't be at Colorado. I'd probably be trying to stay at Jackson State, but that's another conversation. But I went out and I took over the helm of this job. And I wanted to win. I do not like losing, right? So I'm going through the team and I'm looking at them, watching them play, kind of seeing, and I noticed that one of the girls ran track. I said, okay, we can work with that. She's fast, so we can put her in a position where we can get her the ball, do a sweep, or whatever. And then I noticed another thing, that most of them could not throw the football very well. There was one girl, though, who could throw the ball, and she could throw it like 50, 60 yards down the field. That was awesome, and I thought about working with it, but there was one big problem. Her accuracy was terrible. She threw the ball very far without thinking about who she was throwing the ball to. And then on top of that, she wasn't on code. I would send in the play from the sidelines, and she would just do whatever she wanted to do. She'd throw the ball, and just like I predicted, it would be a complete disaster, right? So here's the thing, right? So we were doing good, right? We scored our first couple touchdowns. We were beating. There was a team of white girls and a bunch of tomboys, and we were beating them. And we were doing really good. They were all excited, screaming and hollering because they never even scored a touchdown the whole season. We scored like 2 or 3 touchdowns, and I was like, okay, let's just stick to the plan. Let's stay on code, and we can win this game, right? Somebody always got to be off code. Let me tell you what this girl did. She wanted to throw the ball because she knew she could throw the ball far, but didn't understand that you have to be accurate when you throw the damn ball. So I called the play, and I'm running safe little plays where somebody's just going to hand the ball to somebody else, let them run. Black girls are fast, right? And at least with a couple fast ones there, I was like, y'all just run around the white girls. You score a touchdown every time, right? No, didn't do that. So she says, hike. I'm thinking they're going to hand the ball off. No, she backs up. She cocks back, and she did the weirdest thing. She would throw the ball, and she would scream the name of the girl that she's throwing the ball to. She would say, Tracy! And she would throw the ball down the field. No accuracy, no aim whatsoever. And they had a white girl who just ate her lunch in the backfield. There was a white girl, again, they were all little tomboys. This girl would just wait for the ball, catch it, and run it back for a touchdown. And then we got in the sideline. We're arguing again. I'm like, why did you do that? Well, because you can't tell me what to do. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, just run the play. Stop you. No, she does it again. She throws the ball down the field. The white girl intercepts it. Same white girl intercepts the ball, runs back for another touchdown. Next thing you know, we're losing. So here's my point. Here's why I brought up this story. Number one, because I'm a weirdo, and it's 30 years later, I'm still pissed off because we should have been able to win those games. And number two, throwing the ball is not as important as having the ability to aim the ball or the desire to aim the ball at your necessary target. If you can throw the ball far, but you don't have the intentionality of mindset to know who you're throwing the ball to, then you're going to do more harm than good. You got a lot of Negroes in the Black community balling out of control, making $100 million a year, who can throw the ball real far. They got a whole lot of economic power. They're the economic quarterbacks of the Black community, and they will throw the ball far. They'll go spend $100,000 in one trip to the mall and get on Instagram and brag about it. And every single product they bought was from a white person. Every single thing they bought was from Jake the jeweler. Every single thing they bought was from a Jewish guy. And what they don't understand is that you being a baller, you being able to throw the ball way down the field doesn't mean anything if you keep throwing the ball to the opposition. If you keep throwing the ball to the opposition, you are hurting the team more than you are helping them. Do you follow what I am saying? And Dr. Dre, Debbie's mentioned Dr. Dre, he is a prime example. I hated having to do that with Dr. Dre, but I had to write an essay, and I supported there was a HBCU president who wrote a very polite diplomatic article to Dr. Dre, open letter, basically asking him, why did you give however tens of millions of dollars to USC, a school that doesn't even need it, when you could have made that half of that donation to an HBCU and changed the lives of 50,000 black kids for the next 100 years? Why would you do that? Why would you say it was 70 million? Thank you, David. I forgot what the number was. Why would you throw the ball way down the field just so you can throw it to the opposition? Give me the ball. That's how I feel when I see them acting like that. I'm like, just give me the damn ball. Because you're putting the ball in the wrong basket. It is embarrassing, Byron. It is very embarrassing, and it's sad. It is so sad, and it infuriates me. It really makes me angry. And I really think as a community, what you got to do is train your kids, get the ball, learn how to throw the ball down the field, but learn how to aim for the receiver that is on your team so they can grab that ball and run it in for a touchdown. I throw the ball very far. I get on the internet and I talk to 1 million people a week. I deliberately put the word black on a lot of my content, a lot of my channels, just so people will know whether this is your space or not, whether this is for you or not. You know, if white people come in, they're welcome to come in, but they're coming in, they're seeing the word black on the channel because I'm aiming the ball. I'm saying, look, I'm going to throw this ball as far as I can throw it. I got a whole PhD. I can really throw a ball when it comes to finance. And I'm going to make sure I throw the ball to my teammates because you and some of your kids, I can already see you running into the end zone. That makes me proud. So even if I'm the quarterback, the quarterback backs up and throws the ball and then he gets hit. Somebody comes along and knocks his head off, right? So even when I get my head knocked off, I don't care because I know that I threw a perfect precision pass down the field and somebody's going to catch it and run it into the end zone. So I could literally die tomorrow and know that I did my job. My job was to throw the ball down the field. It's somebody else's job to run it the rest of the way. And I'm okay with that. So throw the ball down the field and throw it to your teammate. Your money is your power. That is your football. You want to aim for your teammate. Don't throw it to the opposition unless you have to. Let me keep going. All right. So again, let's see. So Dr. Anderson says this is on page 130 on the book Powernomics. Powernomics.com is where you can get a copy. He says, we must now recapture the good aspects of traditional business communities as they existed 3/4 of a century ago and continue to exist in many places today. Some are in suburban communities that have grown up near the edge of large urban cities. They are in small and often remote cities and townships off the beaten path throughout the country. They also exist throughout most of Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Black Americans have never had the full alternative economies enjoyed by other groups. However, one of the good things that came out of Jim Crow segregation was the development of Black quasi-business communities. These quasi-business communities were exciting places to shop, work, and socialize. Our segregated business communities were limited and could not compare with traditional ethnic communities, but they still provided us with the products, services, and entertainment that we wanted. When I was a young boy growing up in a small town in North Carolina, our quasi-communities were thriving. They had rhythm, a life of their own. Every Black person shopped at the same grocery stores, drug stores, gas stations, shoe repair shops, coal and ice companies, movie theaters, and clothing departments. We shopped in these stores not only because we needed the consumer products, but because we had personal relationships with the owners. Relationships matter in economics. Relationships are everything. If you form the right relationships, you can become very rich. If you help others build relationships, if you're a good person to have a relationship with, then people will want to put money in your pocket. If you are a skilled person who is also a good person, who is connected to other good people, then those good people, when they need a service, they're going to come to you. That's economic love. And it's beautiful when it happens. We shopped in these stores not only because we needed the consumer products, but because we had personal relationships with the owners. On a typical weekend, most members of the community, regardless of their jobs, educational achievements, and political persuasions, would come into the business district and shop. Our vertical chain of obligation was in good form. At the main grocery store where I worked, the store owner took pride in the merchandise and prices he offered his customers. Every Black person in the city shopped at the same stores. We did not drive 30 miles to a mall in the suburbs to spend our money. Our local merchants depended on community customers for their business, and the customers depended on the store owners for their merchandise and service. We had a sense of community. Members of the community felt some guilt. Sorry. Yeah, members of the community felt some guilt if they did not patronize the local businesses, just as many of the merchants felt guilty if they did not extend non-interest bearing credit and charity to those who needed it. So between the black business owner and the black consumer, there has to be a negotiation and that's built on trust and accountability, but also one where you can meet halfway. Let me give you a real life example of something that happened just this week when I was down in Arizona and I was speaking at that conference, Women Doing It Big. I ran into Juiced Up Reese, the young lady who has the juice company, and Juiced Up Reese, because she saw me come by, she said, "Oh my gosh, Dr. Boyce, I have some free juice for you. I got some for you and Dr. Alicia, and I want you guys to have some juice." And she was really excited, and I was excited too, and I really liked her. And I saw her give me the juice, and I saw her juices were not the cheapest, because she has to put a lot of work into making each one. And I said, "You know what?" I said, "I will not allow you to give me free juice." I said, "I will not allow you, as long as I have money in my pocket, I will not allow you to give me anything for free. But what I will allow you to do is to give me a discount." So we picked some amount of money, and I gave her that money, and I said, "How about this? For the rest of the weekend, you give me free juice. When I walk by and I want a juice, you give me a juice. And I know that the amount of juice you give me is probably going to amount to more than what I've given you, but that's our compromise, right? You offer me a discount, I give you some cash instead of allowing you to simply give your product away for free, which is going to be a drain on your business. It's a benefit to me, but it's a drain on your business." So a lot of times, when you're talking about the relationship between black businesses and black customers, you have to have that negotiation, right? Maybe I'll pay a little more because I want to patronize you, but I need something else from you. Or maybe I need you to give me a little discount. Like a lot of people will say that black business owners should never give discounts. I don't believe that. I give discounts all the time. If you're trying to support me and I know where you are financially and I can work with you, yeah, I want to work with you. My goal is to feed my employees and my team members. It's not to extract every single penny out of you that I possibly can. I just need to have enough money so we can pay the bills and keep the whole thing going. So ultimately, that dance between the consumer and the producer is a very important one. So ultimately, what I would encourage you to do is sort of think about that as a black business owner or as a black consumer. That negotiation, that meeting in the middle is how you can form that healthy relationship. You cannot go around demanding that black business owners give you everything for free unless you want them to go bankrupt. And black business owners can't go around always pushing the price as high as they possibly can just because they can get somebody to pay it. Sometimes if somebody wants to support you and they just don't have the money, figure out a way to see if you can still hook them up. It's okay to get the hookup. That's something you're not going to necessarily hear out there. You hear people all the time saying you should never give discounts, never give discounts. I don't agree with that. I think you can give discounts if you have to. I think that that's okay. So let me keep going. All right, so our vertical chain of obligation was in good form. We're reading Powernomics, page 131. At the main grocery store where I worked, the store owner took pride in the merchandise and prices he offered his customers. Even though black quasi-communities have long been dead, ethnic alternative economies continue to defy pure economic theories and market practices. They survive because of the nature of their consumer markets. These ethnic business communities are built on mutual understandings, market loyalties, and vertical obligations, loyalty and obligation, or trust and accountability, and give ethnic merchants preferential access to ethnic consumers. So the ethnic business owner is hooking up ethnic consumers. They're hooking up people that look like them, right? I don't get into these conversations about whether or not a white person likes me as much as they like other white people. I don't expect them to, because I don't like white people as much as I like black people. I don't hate my white friends. White people are okay. Asian people can be okay. Jewish people can be okay. But I don't think a Jewish man should like me and my black blood as much as he cares about his Jewish brothers and sisters. That's not rational to me. That, again, people can have their own persuasion, but I believe it's okay to hook up people that are closer to you in this competitive game of global economics. So let me see here. So these ethnic business communities are built on mutual understandings. I mentioned that. Blacks often wonder how immigrant groups can so quickly establish communities and businesses. It is important to understand the strategies they use and to be able to compare behaviors. The most common tactics that Asian, Hispanic, and other ethnic groups use to build alternative economies and achieve competitive advantages in their community marketplaces are listed below. To build an alternative economy, ethnic immigrants accept low-wage jobs to get a foot in the door so they can learn a business. That's a good one. So many people are like, well, you can't pay me as much as I can make working for the white man. Well, of course, because I don't have a multi-billion-dollar company with $1 billion line of credit that I can use to pay people super high wages. I might have to pay you a little bit less, but if you want to learn the business and you want to work around your people, maybe we can figure this out, right? Or you're not charging the same price as the white guy down the street. Well, they don't have the distribution systems or the supply chains that Walmart has. So maybe that black business owner can't afford to sell you a t-shirt for 25 cents. So let me keep going. What else? They are acculturated to take business risks, pool resources, and start their own businesses. This is cultural. My daughter has a friend from the Philippines, I believe, or is it Vietnam? Vietnam, that's where she's from. And this little Vietnamese girl, at the age of 12, was able to explain to me, like a college student, how her family runs its business. She explained to me that when her relatives come over from Vietnam, they go and they work for her mother with the nail shop, and they don't, and they're expected to show up on time and do their job properly, or she will send their ass back to Vietnam. And once they save up a certain amount of money, they help each other start another nail shop. Right? That's what this little child was able to explain to me. Never went to business school, nothing. You know, we got our kids, 12 years old, twerking and telling you what little rapid shorty bum done did with his baby's mama and all this other stuff. Can't tell you nothing about business and or any sort of economic strategy like that. I'm not saying every one of our kids is like that. A lot of them are growing out of that. But you got to look at the difference in culture. Culture drives your economics. What else? Here's another thing that ethnic immigrants do, according to Dr. Claud Anderson. They hire members of their own family or ethnicity in their businesses. So they do their best they can to either hire someone in their own family. If they can't find someone in their own family, they do their best to hire someone who looks like them. They harbor a strong group identity and sense of mutual dependency. They bank and borrow from their own families, people, and the community lending institutions. They build alternative economies within their communities to supply jobs, services, and products for their own people. They use satellite businesses in Black communities as platforms to penetrate major markets. So after they finish controlling their own community, they then say, let's go to the Black side of town because Negroes are giving money away for free. Black people will buy from anybody. So Black people, because, we're kind of seen as the economic hoe of the world, we're easy, everybody can come in and just take money. They then go and set up their business in the Black community because we bought into this whole myth of integration. Let's see here. Conduct business with members of their own group first. They use diversity and minority labels to gain access to and compete against Blacks for resources. They use language, religion, and culture to mark and close their communities. They build businesses and industries that use products that can be linked to their country of origin. They avoid being identified with Blacks so they can continue to benefit from dominant society's hatred of Blacks. So they will take money from you, but they will join society in disliking you. And this is, and tell me if I'm wrong about that. Tell me if I'm wrong. When I did the podcast this morning on my YouTube channel, drboycetv.com, and by the way, my podcast is on Spotify and Apple and all that. So if you look up the Dr. Boyce Breakdown on Spotify and Apple, you can find it there too. When I was talking about the Tyler Perry thing, one of the things I was talking about was Atlanta, which is an awesome city with awesome people. But I talked about the run my wife and I did through West Atlanta, where we were going to my grandmother's grave, and how I saw so many abandoned buildings. I saw a boarded up grocery store with young, able-bodied Black men just sitting there on the corner doing nothing. I saw a construction site that had a bunch of people standing around that looked like they had jobs because they had construction hats on. Every single one of those people was white or Hispanic. I stopped by a corner store that was run by an Arab guy that had bars on his windows. I saw a whole torn down neighborhood, and then I saw a big, beautiful church that was gated so that, it was disconnected from the community, but it was the prettiest building on the block. And so it made me really think about just some of the challenges that we have in terms of what we end up seeing. Now, I did see some rays of hope. I met a Black man I got, when I go to Atlanta, a lot of people recognize me on the street when I take my fat butt out and try to go running and all that. They wave at me and stuff. And so I ran into one brother who was running a community center on West Atlanta, trying to help the community. I also saw an elementary school that looked like it was run by a black person. It just had something about it. Like, how black, like we could just smell the blackness on something. There's something about this school, and it was a beautiful school. It was well set up. It looked very, very nice. And I think it was called like Little Kings and Little Queens or something, something that black people would name a daycare if they had one. And it was like, it was more than a daycare, but it wasn't quite an elementary school. It was like kind of a place where you would send your children if you wanted them to be educated. So there were glimmers of hope, but there were also lots of signs of despair and disparity and just problematic economic relationships that we have with other people. So one of those problematic relationships is that there are so many black communities where there are people in the community that are running businesses and making money that have no interest in the community at all. They're there to take, and they're not there to give anything. And that's the type of relationship we cannot allow. It's just like somebody dating you, and they're there, they exploit you, they take what you got, and they give you nothing back. When they need you, you're always there. When you need them, they're never to be found. A lot of us have been in relationships like that, and we know how that feels. And when and typically those relationships are the result of low self-esteem, right? And once your self-esteem comes up, maybe you hear an Ayanna Van Zant speech or something, or one of your friends talks to you about it, you become conscious of it, you snap out of it, and you say, no. Love don't live here anymore. You can't come here and take and not bring something back. I'd rather be single, or I'm gonna find somebody else. So ultimately, I think that these economic relationships have to be renegotiated, right? There has to be sort of expectations where we're on code with each other, but we force others to be on code when it comes to how they deal with us. And so those businesses being set up, I know you got your favorite Chinese restaurant, right up there in the hood, right around the corner from your house and all that. There has to be some sort of an expectation. And most communities do this, and this is why they're able to keep the money in their community. Now, what are our black communities? That's a great question. I would say black communities are pretty much, they can be anywhere black people live. Even if everybody isn't a homeowner, I just think any place, like we know a black neighborhood, we're in one, right? You walk down the street and you just see lots of black people everywhere. To me, that's a black neighborhood, right? Now, that's not quite the same as a community, though, right? A community calls for a certain amount of connectivity. Your neighbors, you come together and you make community-based decisions, right? Or if there's a new ordinance, like where my wife and I live, whenever they want to raise taxes by half a penny, the whole community gets together and they scream how outraged they are. Or when something happens, there's a dangerous element that's in the community, everybody gets concerned. They have a little Facebook page where they all get on there and tell each other what they've been seeing outside their windows. So perhaps that's the part of community that we kind of lost over time. And I think it's very important for us to try to pick that up and think about that in terms of how we go forward as black people. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for next week, that next section, economic action step number 2, which Dr. Anderson says is to dominate business ownership and management where black people are the majority consumer population. I feel like because we covered so much today and we got so much to think about today, I'm going to save that for next week. Now, I want to remind everybody, if you want to get access to the whole life class and everything, that's totally free. Just go to blackkeystogreatness.com. That's blackkeystogreatness.com. It's those of you that were already members, you may have to sign up again because somehow the link disappeared. Or Chanel, maybe you can help me figure out. I don't know what happened. It's almost like the class disappeared. I don't know what was going on with the system, but either way, you may have to sign up again, but it's totally free because I want to do this Powernomics training for as many people that want to hear it. Now, if you'd like to support some of the stuff we're doing, blackmoney101.com might be a good place to go. If you want to, we have a course called An Introduction to the Power of Money, and that's blackmoney101.com. That's our Black Money sequence. We go from 101 through 106. 102 is how to invest in the stock market. 103 is how to start a strong black business. 104 is how to buy a franchise. 105 is real estate, how to get into real estate. 106 is business systems and processes. And then also our children's program is at blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. And last but not least, the book that I mentioned earlier, I'm going to do a book tour in the spring. So I'm going to go to a bunch of cities, I think Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Houston, and a couple more places. And I'm going to basically lay out, I'm not going to go to Seattle. Sorry, Tony. Can't go to Seattle. But I'm going to go to these cities, and we're going to do breakdowns based on that book, that new book I wrote called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. So if you want to get a copy on Amazon, you can bring it to the event. I'll sign it for you. And then also we're going to do a 4-hour deep dive training on Black wealth and Black economics, where literally we'll sit down, take notes, and I'll lay things out for you. So I just want to give you guys a heads up to let you know that we are putting the tour together, and those are some of the cities we're going to go to. I'll give you more details as they emerge. So thank you, everybody. It was great to see you. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful night and a great holiday. And take care, everybody. See you next week, next Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.